Hello, it is 7 o'clock and we are live. So welcome to our discussion on the inventive mind. Now there's not really a time limit on this. It was just a chance just to talk about some of the things that go on in my mind that I know other people will probably want to discuss at some point. So why not now? So, again, not really too familiar with how this works other than pressing the record button, going live and then just talking to you. So I've seen videos where people will wait for viewers to come on, but just come on and go as you please, really. It either interests you or it doesn't, but either way I'm just gonna be here talking. So, a bit hot, so don't mind me. Right, so the inventive mind, it's really all to do with filling in the gaps. The way we fill in the gaps, the way we process information, the way we create our own reality, and ultimately respond to what's going on. So I've been talking to my friends a lot about this lately because, as I say, it's been on my mind, and it all started with the kind of remembering as a child, hi Martin, some of the exercises that we had to do in school, and it was all to do with learning a language, learning how to be a member of society. So you'd get these worksheets and there would be blank spaces. And even later on in education, I'm talking like really low level, like primary school and junior school. But we do still have them kind of activities further along the line in education. So it's basically complete the sentence kind of work. But going from right at the beginning, so when you're very young, it is very simple. The issue with these kind of worksheets is that there is a right and a wrong answer, which to some children seems a little bit restricted. If there's a blank space there, it's usually so that you can put anything in that makes sense to you. But as I say, in education, it is more to do with sentence structure and learning language. Now, as we get older, we still fill in the gaps as part of the ways that we process information. So we're constantly taking information in all throughout the day, on a conscious and a subconscious level. And because there's so much information, especially using all the senses, so you're taking it in visually, you're taking it in auditorily, so sound, kinesthetically, so touch, and all the different senses, taste, and smell. So because there's so much information, like every second of the day, we only hold on to so much of that information. We only need so much of that information to just carry on. And so there are certain behaviour models. I can kind of do a reference, a bit of a bibliography after this video, just so that I can name some of the resources where I get my information from. But there is a model that looks into the way that we process information that kind of defines it as we do three things. So once the information comes in, we will delete bits of information that we don't need, depending on us, our personalities. We will distort the information, so again, creating that reality that fits with our interpretation and how it is going to affect us, basically. And then we generalise as well, so it's kind of grouping bits of information together. Now, the fact that we're already doing that, we're already getting rid of bits of information. So we've only got part of a story really by the time we've finished that. And then with that little bit of information, that little section of a story, we then fill in the gaps. So we link it to a memory that we have of a past experience, whether it's something we were told by our parents, our teachers, whether it's something that we saw, or an experience that we had. And whatever's similar to the information that we've taken in, and the bit that we're holding on to, we then create that reality from that memory. So we fill in the gaps. But we're filling in the gaps in a very individual way. I will fill in the gaps using the information that's stored in my mind, which means two people can look at the same situation, fill in the gaps using their own unique interpretation, and then, I don't know if I said that right then, but then make the story from it, so create that reality. So it's never going to be the same between two people, between any two people, and that's why there's that saying out there that no two eyes see the same. You don't look at the world in the same way because there's different things that you're accustomed to, there's different links that you're making based on your own personal life story. So there's different examples and ways of looking at this, just to kind of test yourself really, and it's all about being aware, just being aware. You don't really have to make any changes to start, but if you are consciously aware of the processes that you go through in terms of taking in that information, interpreting it to then respond to it, then it gives you a little bit more insight into the kind of programs that we use, basically the way we process information. So there's examples like you could walk down the street and see two people. One person will walk up to the other person and they'll just start talking. Now, again, you're only getting a little bit of information, you're getting a piece of information, you're visually seeing that. You might be able to hear a bit of the conversation, but you're not quite there and you can't get into those people's minds. So then what you could do, and what most people do, is then construct the story of what's happening based on what you're seeing and also the similarity to whatever memory and past experience you kind of pull out of the mind. Does that make sense? Think of it this way. So because I've done a lot of drama and performing arts, when I did my drama degree, one of the first homework assignments that we had to do was a people watching exercise. So it was fun, all about observation, and that's the only instruction we'd been given. Just go out there and just watch people. Like, don't let them know you're watching them. You can't sit there like, hi. None of that. You can't interfere. You just sit somewhere and just observe. Now, most people know when somebody's watching them. You will get that feeling, you know, to make you turn around and be like, what? But the hardest part was not trying to interpret anything. So when you're observing people, again, the instructions were quite minimalist. So it was to observe the way they talk, observe the way they sit, observe the way they walk. It's very simple things. What we didn't know at the time was that it was building up to an exercise in character building. But as I say, we needed to just know that little piece of information for the time being. So just observing people. So you couldn't make any kind of assumptions. You couldn't make any judgments. You couldn't sit there and make it personal. So sit there and think, well, what would I do? How would I act? What are they thinking? You can't get into their mind. That's too deep. And so yeah, was one of the main things I found from that exercise, that it's hard to just observe. It's hard to just see something and that's it, just see it without maybe commenting or finding a way to make it fit your situation or having an opinion of how you'd act if you were them, depending on the situation that you're observing. So there's exercises like that already started ringing bells in how we fill in the gaps, and how we process information. We don't just leave it at that, oh, I just saw that and that's it. The brain, whether consciously or subconsciously, you are still kind of piecing that information together to make it make sense to you so that you can go on with your day. It's just how we interact, it's how we think. You can think of it psychologically, you can think of it scientifically, biologically. There's loads of different theories, many experiments that again are based on one person's inventive mind, one person's theory that they then want to prove a point about. And so they will do what they need to do to say, look, these are the findings, this is what I've been saying, this is the point I'm making, and look, the findings are actually approving and, you know, making light of what I've got to say. It's just how we do it in science and psychology. It's all studies. But again, it's all come from somebody. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, there is other things like programming that plays into it. I did mention that earlier in terms of how we process information. If you think just from the time that you're born, and like I say, you're constantly taking in so much information, there's so much going on around you, and it's all external. Every bit of it is external. It's just coming in every way, every shape, every form, and you're making sense of it. You're making sense of the world at a young age, and you're also making sense of where you fit, where you belong, what's your role, what's your identity. A lot of what we are told comes from other sources, and if you chase those sources, it always comes back to what somebody's been told. So, oh well, my mum said that because her mum told her that, so, and then her mum's mum told her that. It's not always a source where the questions can fully be answered, like, well, why? Can't really answer it because it's just, well, because they said so. In society, you are expected to act a certain way because society deems it so. You know, your whole 9 to 5 and the way we look and just the way we interact with other people. And so there's a judgment sometimes when you don't do what's expected of you. And so this is where we create these identities as young children, and then we carry that identity around with us for the rest of our life. And then you get to my age, in your 30s, and you start questioning everything. I mean, I've always been intrigued by everything. Everything is like, oh wow, look at that butterfly. Like, I am just in awe of life, really. So yes, I've always got a lot of questions. Doesn't matter if they're answered, but I just like asking the questions. And so, even though that was always a part of me, when I got older, the answer started mattering, because I was thinking, well, if I act this way, like, who says it's the way that I should be acting? So again, I'm filling in the gaps based on my perception of what other people should expect from me, and how to be a good member of society. Now, another way of looking at programming is in the psychological studies. You've got studies like quite well known, you might have heard of them, but you've got studies like Skinner's rats, where, again, you can look this up to get all the full details, but he basically conditioned the rats to press like a lever, and every time they pressed this lever, a food pellet would come down. They'd receive a reward of food. Now, at first they didn't know what it was. Again, can't really get into the rat's mind, but just from watching them, observing, It was done by accident at first. So they'd press the lever and food would come. Oh. And then they kind of try and work out, well, why? How did that come about? Again, I don't know why I'm getting in the rat's mind, but I'm getting into character. And then that kind of process carries on until you've accidentally pressed that lever so many times, and then make that distinction. You make that connection, that every time I press this lever, I get food. And so the way the experiment went was that they'd then start pressing the lever knowing that they were going to get food. With Pavlov's dogs, a similar thing with salivating. So he did a study, an experiment on dogs, obviously. And what he'd do was he'd ring a bell and then he'd give the dogs food. So at first there was no connection to the sound and the fact that they were getting food. They were just getting food and oh my gosh, I can hear a bell in the background. But then he continued to a point where they then linked the sound of the bell to them getting food. Now he proved this by, after a while, after the link had been made, the connection had been made, he then started ringing the bell but not giving them the food, and noticed that their body biologically was still preparing for food. The mind was telling them food was coming because it's linked to this sound. It's got to be. That's what's been happening. A connection's been made. And so they'd salivate to the sound of a bell regardless of food being there. So when it comes to programming and conditioning, it's all about repetition. It's all about continuous practice. And so when you think of the ways that we identify ourselves and the way we think about ourselves and the way we process information, it is programmed because we've continuously done it. And it's sometimes worked for us, sometimes hasn't, but we haven't tried to do it any other way. And so when you try taking yourself out of the picture and just looking at, being aware, like I say, of your thoughts and your processes, you can then start to see a little bit more about how much of the things that you took in growing up had such a big effect on the person that you are today. A lot of us will feel judged. A lot of us will feel not good enough. A lot of us will feel like we've got an expectation to meet. I talk a lot about makeup these days, and I've heard women having conversations about the things you have to do to look good, and I've always believed in true beauty being on the inside, and it kind of just shines through to the outside. But again, it's not quite putting on a mask, even though it seems like it is, but it is just a way of saying this is how I want the world to see me, which then means we've got to a place where it's almost difficult for people to see us without all of that. So again, like I said the other day, naked, not without clothes, but just our true selves, like just as we've got out of bed in the morning. It's the same person that's there throughout the day. The only difference is there's a different presentation. And yeah, it's always about looking the part. Now, we choose everything in life. There's decisions we make throughout the day that are conscious and unconscious, but they get us through the day. There's always something externally that's going to come in and kind of ruffle your feathers. There's always going to be a time when you've planned for things to be a certain way and it's not gone that way at all. Everything external to you has made sure that it's not going to go the way you've decided it to go in your head. And I mean, that's the way the world works. Like I say, if we're filling in the gaps, then there's so much of our reality that is distorted. Not saying that you're out there living a lie, but what I've noticed is it does bring up issues such as mental health that make you question just some of the thought processes you have and the behaviours you have. So the way you see a situation will determine whether or not you are defensive in your response. Like, you have to defend yourself. So somebody is attacking me. They might have said a comment about the way you look or something you've done. And so it will be taken as a personal attack, because of course you're the one who's done it. You're the one that stood there looking like that. But it's just somebody else's opinion. It's how they're seeing you. But it doesn't mean that it's how you see you, if that makes sense. If you've looked in a mirror before you've come out, on the day, then you know how you look. You don't really need anybody else to tell you. But like I say, everyone sees things differently. And so in today's age, I know there's a lot of low moods and low confidence in people due to their identity, due to what they believe is the way of life. As I say, it's not that it's wrong, you just have to be aware of how you've got into that kind of thinking, and if it still means the same thing to you, if it's still benefiting you in some way. Because I mean, most people would say, oh, if it's not benefiting me, why am I doing it? But then we still run the same program day to day, and the same issues come up. So the same cycles you get stuck in, the same loops. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you can't stop yourself from getting stuck in these loops, because it's happening for you to be able to question where you are right now in life and what you want. So what you desire and how you'll get there. Yeah. I mean, I wrote down a few things. Not a lot, really, because I didn't want to over-prepare. I always over-prepare. When it comes to discussions, it's not about over-preparing, it's about just talking. So, yeah, filling in the gaps. If I could give you one activity to do, just to take away from this discussion, whenever you watch it, I would ask you to become aware of your thoughts on a day-to-day basis. When you're getting ready on a morning, when you're stood in front of your wardrobe and you're ready to choose your outfit, just be aware of the process that you're going through in order to just choose that outfit for the day. See if you can be consciously aware of the thoughts, whether it's thoughts of, oh well, how will people see me, and oh well, I'll look pretty in this because it's a fashion trend. Just be aware in order to start to understand the process that you go through and your programming. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge to constantly be aware of your thoughts, but a lot of the research I've been doing talks a lot about how the body follows the mind. So again, I was talking to a friend earlier, and she was talking about how she was worried about something, and the worrying was plaguing her. It was, keeping her awake and causing her to feel a bit low. Now, I've been there. I've got a very imaginative mind, and it's constantly running, constantly thinking and asking questions and taking in all, like, it's very busy. So I know if somebody says, oh, just try not to worry, it's not that easy. Like with the anxiety, if you're having anxious thoughts, and anxiety can be anything from like making plans with somebody a couple of days in advance, and then the closer that day gets to you, you just start feeling like, no, I can't do it, I'm not feeling up to it, and you talk yourself out of it. Again, being aware of those thoughts, really. And then you end up letting people down, and then you feel bad because you've let them down, and it's just, you just get back into that pattern of just feeling very low. And the worst thing that somebody can say to you in those kind of situations is, oh, pull your socks up, you'll be fine, just get on with it. Because they're the kind of things that you're saying to yourself already, and it's not working because you've got yourself stuck in this thought process. That's familiar. It does become very familiar. It's your go-to. No matter where it takes you, you know it's going to take you down the hill because you feel really bad. But it's all the thoughts. And so I was wanting to tell my friend, I didn't get a chance to. Hopefully she's listening. But I just wanted to say that worrying it's something that creates illness. If the body is going to follow the mind, then if the mind is worrying, it means the body is going to feel fatigued, it's going to feel low, you're going to get sick. Because the worrying is just those really low vibrational thoughts that are keeping you stuck in a place like a dark hole, which is almost telling you there's no way out. And that's wrong because it's our thoughts. They're not always to be controlled. You can have a bad thought and just replace it with a good thought. You can have a bad thought and then afterwards have a good thought. It's not as easy as just programming yourself to always think good things. The world is full of opposites: up, down, left, right, here, there, yes, no, good, bad. So in order to have a healthy balance, you've got to be able to understand and be comfortable with both of them, both sides. But it also means that the more aware you become of those thoughts, the more you kind of feel like you can manage them a little bit more. I'm at the point where I'm aware of the thoughts, and sometimes I will respond and then think, oh yeah, I could have done that. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Everybody does that. And I'm ready for the next stage where it is just all happy thoughts, and it's not happening that way for me because I don't believe that's the way it's supposed to happen. I believe that it's a very long journey to become very aware of yourself and your thoughts, and then program yourself to live a balanced life. That's it, balance and harmony, that is key. So going back to filling in the gaps, what do you want to fill in the gaps with? I do apologize, I'm very hot, so but that's just me. There's nothing I can say about that. That is just me, and like I said from the first video, all you're going to get is just the true Angie. There's nothing else I can give you. But yeah, if we change the way we fill in the gaps, now that's different. I'm going to have to fan myself. Take it as a good sign if I'm getting hot, because it means I'm passionate about what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that might agree, and there's people that might not. But again, it's opposition. I have not got all the answers. I trust in the information that finds its way to me, because I know whenever it finds its way to me, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to think about it and decide whether it is something that I can believe in, and then something that will be beneficial, so will help move me forward. So there's been lots of information coming in, and it's all very interesting, and it's almost like the information I've been learning over the last 5 years are now helping me make sense of information that I was taking in like 20 years ago, which is very exciting, really. It helps me understand that the knowledge is there. We all have the knowledge that we need. It's already there. We just need to be aware of it. We need to consciously use that knowledge and be confident enough to listen to that inner voice and to trust ourselves instead of always playing it safe and thinking about how other people will react and respond to us. I learned a lot in sociology back in college about conformity. Really intrigued by it. And it's easy to conform. And people will do it to keep the peace. Because the opposite of conforming is obviously you're rebelling, so you're against things. But it's not, it just means you don't really have the same opinion. And think of things differently. So, although it's easier to conform, it takes away from your individuality. And your individuality is what makes you, you. It's what makes you unique. It's what, oh, it's a very loud noise. It is your true self, your true essence. Yes, people can have opinions, but that's all it is. It's just an opinion based on the information that they hold, the experiences they link it to. It's almost like saying everybody's right, but everybody's also wrong. Because no two people are the same. Even twins, identical twins, still have their own individual identity. They might just look the same and talk the same, might talk at the same time in unison, but they are still two different people. And so they will still see the world a little bit differently from the other person, the other twin. But then on other levels they'll connect. So yeah, the Inventive Mind was all about filling in the gaps. It's all a way to get you to think a bit more consciously about some of your thought processes and how you see the world. Because how you see the world and how you understand it is how you will then respond to the world. And how you respond to the world in different situations is how people see you. Not everybody is always happy with the responses that they have in the moment. Like I talked about in one of the other videos, different triggers. And yeah, different reactions we have based on whatever the situation is. But that first reaction is always the most natural. You might not like it. You might be angry. You might be embarrassed afterwards. You might feel guilty. But it was the first just natural reaction that came to you. Now, if I told you you could change that, I don't know if you would believe me, but if we change our thoughts, we can change how we see the world and then change how we react to different things. Now, again, I have had discussions with my friends about kind of always being the bigger person and feeling like you're backing down sometimes. So say somebody comes in your face and they're very angry and they've got a lot to say and they just, it's all on you. The focus is you and you're getting it. You can choose in that moment, like you can press pause and literally choose how you want to take it and then how you want to respond. You can stand there and just go, okay. You can be caring, considerate. I get you, I understand. I'm sorry that you feel that way. which to everybody is usually that's the best way to handle these situations. It's all about love and being good. But then in that situation, you usually get a different reaction because it's a defense. Excuse me. It's a, why are you getting at me about it? I didn't do anything. Why are you coming to? And so, again, it's just a programmed response that is usually the go-to. But like I say, with the conversation with my friend, it's not about feeling like you're the one that's always backing down. It's taking control of how you want to let that affect you. You know, if you want your energy to stay light and positive and happy, then all you have to do is show that person love, be considerate, still wish them love no matter what. I mean, it's different when they're putting their hands on you. I'm not even going to get into that. It's just, we're just talking about a situation where they'd just be shouting at you. But yeah, you'd want to kind of wish them love and see if you can help them out. Or you can react in so many different ways, to be honest. You can start shouting back, you can walk away, you could be violent and just hit them. But the point I'm trying to make is that you, in that moment, have, hi Sarah, you in that moment have a choice. You have free will. Your thoughts don't control you. Your thoughts come from you, so you should have some say. Acknowledge those kind of thoughts that tell you to no, don't take that, or to be like, oh, it's really bad. No, God, there's no way out of this. Acknowledge those thoughts, but don't let them take over. Think differently is what I'm saying. Yes, it's not something that we're used to, but it's something that we can do. It's a skill that we have, and it's pretty powerful if we can use it in the ways that help us live a better life. And so in my coaching, do a little bit of talk about my coaching and mentoring, a lot of it is not so much solving your problems. I do like to be a bit of a problem solver, but I can only go by what you're telling me. And the good thing about me is I'm always going to keep a perspective as like an outsider. I'm always going to see it as a big picture. So I'll see the other person's point of view as well as your point of view, and then I'll see some different angle of it. And I mean, I love the fact that that's the way my mind works. But in the coaching, I kind of take the focus away from the issues and the problems that you're having, almost kind of trying to get to the root, because there's always a source, there's always an identifying feature, that's the best way to put it, that it comes from. And it comes from our life experience, everything we've been through. Again, I say how we decide to interpret information, which then how we take it, and then how we decide to respond. I feel like I'm repeating that a lot, but that is the main point I'm making. We have so much control over how we want to see situations in every walk of our life, every area. You will get people who will say, oh, well, if someone hits me, I'm going to hit them back, and blah, blah, blah. You never know what the situation's going to be. I mean, don't even try and think that far ahead. Don't try and problem solve a problem that's not even there yet. And that's what we do a lot as well with assumptions and, oh, they're going to judge me, they're going to think this, they're going to think that. Well, how do we know? How do we know what they're going to think? I don't even know what I'm going to think. Because that's just the way the mind works. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I've learned a lot. And as I say, I've done a lot of studies and I'm still learning a lot. And with my coaching and mentoring, all I can do is share with you the things that have worked for me. Sorry, Sarah. Yeah, well, I do like to give people a different perspective, Sarah, definitely. And like I say, I don't know if it's the big eyes, but I do see the world in a very, very complex way. And so I'm constantly figuring out everything that I'm taking in, which then helps me to kind of fit the puzzles, the pieces of the puzzles together and help others with their problems. But again, like I was saying earlier, you all have the same information as I do. You all have the same knowledge. So there's nothing that I know that you don't and that you know that I don't. Well, there'll be things, different skills, talents, but in terms of the way we can live a balanced life, all the information is already there. So as a coach and mentor, I'm just there to kind of help you remember that it's there. So yeah, kind of like telling you don't need me while needing me. A bit like Nanny McPhee, if you've watched Nanny McPhee. She's there when you don't want her to be there, and then when you want her to be there, she won't be there. She's only there when you need her. And so with the coaching and mentoring, I've done a lot of work on myself. I call it self-healing work because I have had to do a lot of healing, a lot of reprogramming my own mind and my own thoughts. There is a lot of work I've done on mindfulness when it comes to the services that are available, which then leads you down a road to meditation and kind of like all the different things like getting back to nature or doing different activities like drawing or music, just things that kind of uplift you and take you out of that kind of low, groggy place. But then it always comes back to some of the things that I've read in a spiritual sense. So again, meditation, I looked into astrology to see if that could help me identify parts of my personality, because that led me down a route of birth charts and all sorts of interesting stuff, moon phases, and just the different ways that the planets and the universe and the system has an influence on you and how you act, and like I say, the characteristics, personality, your identity. So when it comes to spirituality, it's so vast. I only say spirituality because it's just, like I said earlier, it's about believing in God without putting a label on it, without having to follow a certain religion. And to me, it's just about having faith, just having faith in something. Because we need that to pull us out, to help pull us out of those low times. And it's strong enough to do that, especially when you can't pull yourself out of it, when you yourself can't pull yourself out of it. So, yeah, I use the term spirituality quite loosely, but it's just because it gives me a chance to be able to talk about meditation and different practices there is in terms of changing your thought process, changing your belief, basically. Like, wow, it's an amazing thing. And another thing that's kind of been part of my process is letting go. Oh my gosh, you have to let go of so much once you become aware of so much, because a lot of it is holding you back. Those little thoughts that you have, no, you're not good enough to do that. No, you can't wear that. You'll be looked at like an idiot. You can't go and pierce your nose at this age. All of those that are created in my own mind. My inventive mind, is it? No. Like I say, if you think of the inventive mind as the creative mind, it's like a kid's imagination. you can create whatever you want, whatever reality from all different parts of whatever you see. But again, it's stuff that you've already taken in, stuff that you've seen on a TV show, it's stuff that you've experienced. So how much of it is brand new? I always used to think when I'd turned a corner or when I'd got through the latest challenge, I was brand new. Like, this is a new me, yeah. I found the answers now. This is how I choose to live now. And then about 3 weeks later, I'm back. I'm back in that cycle. Because I suppose everything is quite, like I said, that balance. So when you're kind of in the middle of the opposition, there's always something contradictory. Like I was saying with the mantra the other day. But I think that's what I think of spirituality. It is a contradiction because nobody can tell you you're right or wrong. If you've got a faith in something, then that's all that matters, because it's all about what you believe in and what's going to get you through life. Nobody else has to agree with it or cheer you on. Yeah, it's good. No, it's all about you. And it's not a selfish thing, because at the end of the day, the more you resist just being you and showing the world you and letting go of all the judgments and the thoughts that are telling you, oh no, you can't do this, yeah, but you can do that, the more that you just feel so much better in yourself. Like, I've had injuries like a herniated disc, trouble with my knee, cartilage tearing and all sorts of stuff, and there was never a cause. Every time you go to doctors or hospitals, the x-rays, MRIs, all of it, they're always, well, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I didn't fall. I wasn't in an accident. I didn't twist myself the wrong way. It just came out of nowhere. And that was the start of my journey, because it was my body that was bringing something to my attention. So most of the time I was overdoing it. So it was a way of my body saying, right, you just chill out, just time out, relax. Because I wouldn't have listened. The only way that I would have took that time to then rest is not being able to do anything. And so an injury would come about. But again, if you think about how busy I've always been and always rushing around, it was a lot to do with trying to please people, trying to be that good member of society. And so there was always pressure. I was always overwhelmed because I couldn't reach that other person's expectation. That's their expectation of me. That's not my expectation of me. And so I'm able to not expect things from others and understand, or try to get them to understand, that what you expect from people or what you expect from me, I'm not always going to deliver on, because I'm my own person as well, and your expectation comes from, how do we say it? You filling in the gaps, how you process information, how you believe you should live your life and others should follow suit. So today's world, we have a lot of opinions. There's a lot of people who will let you know how they feel about things, which is good. I don't believe that you should be attacked for having an opinion. I love discussions and love debates. I can always see the other person's point of view. Don't have to agree with it, but it's beautiful that they might think something differently from me, because who's to say which one is wrong and which one is right? So again, coming back to the filling in the gaps, it's not like when we were in school. It's not a worksheet where there's only so many answers that you can put into that blank space. We're now later on in life where filling in them gaps is not just what's on a piece of paper. There is so many different possibilities, and whichever one you choose is going to take you down a certain path. But you've chose it. You've made that decision. And again, some people will hear that and think, well, no, I didn't choose to be in this situation. sometimes it's hard to hear that the decisions you made actually got you to that point. I'm not afraid to say that because I can only relate using my own life experience. If I'm somewhere I don't want to be, I got myself there and I can get myself out. And so with the coaching, that's what I'm here to help you do. It could be I don't want to say a little problem or a big problem, because what's a little problem to you might be a big problem to me and vice versa. But it can be anything. And like I say, the people that I've been reading, like Dr. Wayne Dyer, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Eckhart Tolle, if I've said that properly, they've always got a lot to say about changing your thoughts in order to change your life. And it really is that simple. So be aware of how you feel in the gaps. Be aware of the choices that are yours to be made in that moment. If you make a choice and you feel bad about it later, you've made the choice already, it's done, and learn from it. It will help you move forward. Everything helps you to move forward because there's always something to be learned. And don't be hard on yourself either, because again, with those judgments and the way we think and our expectations, a lot of the time we'll think that we're inadequate or we're wrong or we should have done differently or we could have done better. But what if you just think of it as though, well, that's what I did and that was the right thing to do in that moment, and now move on to the next. Just let go. Just let go of everything that's got you to this point that makes you think you should behave in a certain way. Let go of it and not start afresh, but be aware. Be aware of letting go of it. No, I'm going somewhere else now. But yeah, so letting go is a part of it, but the main thing is be aware. Be aware of the gaps and how you're filling them in. And then we can talk a little bit more about the process that comes after that, the stage that comes after your conscious awakening, to then start reprogramming, reconditioning, and creating a different story for yourself, knowing that you have the control, you have the power to do that. So yeah, that's everything I've got to say about filling in the gaps. And even though the title was The Inventive Mind, aka the Creative Mind, it was all about just how we fill in the gaps, how we create our own story, how we create our own reality, and then how we use that to interact with others and the world around us. So yeah, just be aware of it, and yeah, just remember that we're all doing the same thing. We're all filling in the gaps, we're all processing the information, and we're all acting in a way that not just suits us best, but in a way that we've learned will be the best kind of way to be part of society. So I hope you've learned something. I feel like I've just talked a lot. I will be doing more, and I'll probably try and collect loads of questions beforehand on the next one, and then I can answer some questions. But don't be afraid to come and talk to me. I am here. I do like to discuss things, and yeah, maybe I'll give you a different perspective, or just get you to creatively play. But yeah, just think about some of those activities and exercises that I mentioned, like the people watching, just how you can observe someone and not actually make a judgment or an assumption or even link them to you. And yeah, maybe give you a little bit more insight into the way you process information. So that is it for tonight. Yeah, I can't take any of that back, so I hope you get something from it, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, take care. Bye y'all.